Many people in Pakistan and other Muslim countries believe that Islam and the West are at war against each other. They say that the United States, helped by various European countries, has repeatedly invaded Muslim countries, most recently Afghanistan and Iraq. Then there are drones flying over Pakistan and over Yemen. There are extrajudicial killings and so forth. But is this really a religious war? Is this a clash between two civilizations? If it is, then the consequences will be horrific. However, before one comes to such a conclusion, it's important to put the facts before us. Let's begin with the fact that the United States since World War II has invaded well over 30 countries. This includes Vietnam, which lost more than 1 million people, but there was also Korea, Laos, Cambodia, etc. In South America, El Salvador, Honduras, Haiti, Grenada, and so forth. But these were not religious wars. They were fought by the United States because it wanted to steal resources, extend its power and influence, and most particularly to fight against the Soviet Union and communism. The Cold War had dominated the thinking of the United States for decades. If it is a religious war that the West is fighting against Islam, then one must confront certain facts head on. Firstly, why is it that so many Muslims want to go to the West, and why is it that the West accepts them? Of course, one could say that the West needs labor, cheap labor. But that's not true anymore because there's so much unemployment in Western countries. And yet the Muslim population, both the intrinsic one, the domestic one, as well as immigration, is leading to Muslims being the largest growing religious group both in Europe and in the United States. If the West is at war against all Muslims, then let's ask why it is that a child born of Muslim parents in the United States or Britain automatically becomes a citizen of that country. On the other hand, if there's a Muslim worker from Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, Philippines, or wherever, who has worked for years and years in Saudi Arabia or Kuwait or the Gulf states, he can never become a citizen of those countries, nor can his children, even if they are born over there. And these are countries that claim to be the guardians of Islam, that say that they are the protectors of Muslims and the guarantors of their prosperity. If the West is really at war against Islam, then the question is, why is there so much religious freedom for Muslims living in the West? Now you might say that's not true. After all, the French have banned the burqa. The Swiss have put rules upon the building of minarets. The Americans stopped, or nearly stopped, the building of a mosque near the World Trade Center. And yet, the fact is that the number of mosques in the United States has increased from something like maybe 200 or 300, 30 or 40 years ago to something like 2,500 today. Moreover, constitutionally, every Muslim has exactly the same rights as any other person who lives in that Western country. So, although there is discrimination at the workplace against Muslims, and that's occasionally true, there's also the fact that there are occasional hate crimes against Muslims. Nevertheless, there is a process by which this can be fought against. You can go to the courts, you can go to the police, and yes, action does happen. On the other hand, if you live in Saudi Arabia and are a Pakistani and you have been mistreated by your employers, do you have a chance at all of protesting that? Look at the number of Pakistanis who have been beheaded. Some of them might have been guilty of smuggling drugs, others might not have been. But there is no recourse, there is no appeal. And so the question really is, if Muslims are treated better in Western countries than they are treated within Muslim countries, then how can there be a civilizational war between Islam and the West? Of course, the interesting thing is, the notion of the clash of civilizations was not put forward by Muslims. It was put forward by Samuel P. Huntington, professor of politics at Harvard University. Huntington divided the world's cultures into 7 different civilizations. But defining a civilization or a culture exclusively or even largely in terms of religion is being a little simple-minded, isn't it? After all, if you take a Christian, a Catholic from Guatemala or from Brazil and compare him with a Catholic living in Italy or France or Germany, what's the similarity? Or if you take a Pathan Muslim, compare him with a Bengali Muslim, there is no common civilization over there. Huntington also says that conflicts and violence will also occur between states and groups within the same civilization. Such conflicts, however, are likely to be less intense and less likely to expand than conflicts between civilizations. But as we can all see, today on the face of the earth, the most bitter conflicts are those within one religion. For example, the Iran-Iraq war consumed well over 1 million lives. Missiles were thrown by one side, at the other side cities. Child soldiers died in the tens of thousands. And this was a place where poison gas, chemical weapons were used. If one looks at Syria today, it is in shambles. It is in a state of civil war. Devastation is to be seen all around. In Pakistan, well over 50,000 people have been killed according to official statistics. This is essentially a religious war where a group of extremists have extended their control into various parts of the country. We all like to have simple answers to big problems and to avoid the complexities. After all, that's part of human nature. But then there is the danger of oversimplification. Those who say that Islam and the West are at war against each other are missing the elephant in the room. The fact is that today the well-being of Muslims is endangered not from outside, but mostly from Muslims themselves. That, unfortunately, is true.